everyone, welcome to the College Admissions Workshop. I'm super excited to be having you all join me today, and I will start by saying I know 2020 has been a rather strange and interesting and a rather uncertain year, and that applies to college admissions as well, unfortunately. However, I'm here to shed some light on things that we do know about the college admissions process, including some changes that have happened in recent months. So if you're a rising senior, you'll find this super helpful, especially if you're feeling a little bit overwhelmed, a little anxious, and of course a little confused about what to be aware of. So I'm going to be going over all the things that you will want to know as far as the changes are concerned, but also some things that have not yet changed and how you can best prepare for them as you start the process. So while this video will be great for rising seniors, it's going to be helpful for any student at any grade level, especially if you know you're going to be applying out to college at some point. So without further ado, let's begin. So before we begin, I just wanted to do a quick introduction about myself. My name is Sophia, and I am an educational consultant and a college counselor. I'm actually also a UCLA Bruin, so go Bruins. I studied political science and minored in film, TV, and digital media studies, and later I got certified as a college counselor. Shortly after I graduated, I spent a year abroad, and I taught in South Korea. During that time, I was actually a live news reporter for a station called TBS EFM, which was really exciting. And during that time, I also co-authored a book called Steve Jobs' Greatest Golden Speeches. This was back in 2011, back when Steve Jobs unfortunately passed. So it was a very timely book at the time. So very excited to share about the writing experience, the publishing experience, if any of you guys out there are interested in it. But after all of that, I began my educational consulting and counseling experience and have been doing so for the past 10 years. So again, if any of you guys have questions about writing, publishing, or of course about colleges, I am a great person to ask. So I'll be sharing my contact information at the very end of this workshop, so feel free to contact me with any questions you may have. But to get started, let's get right into the heart of what this workshop is about, which is, of course, the college admissions and what they look for. So we'll begin by going over the top 3 things that the majority of colleges look for. Now, these 3 things haven't changed except for one area, which is, of course, testing. And I'll be going into more detail about that when we get there. But for now, the number one most important thing that the majority of colleges will look at and look for are your grades, or GPA, which stands for grade point average. Now, included in GPA, they will also look at the level of challenge that your courses provided. So for example, did you take honors courses? Did you take AP courses? Now, some high schools I know do not offer any AP courses, and that's completely okay. However, they still want to see that you were able to challenge yourself where you could, given what was offered at your particular high school. So again, grades are going to be most important. Secondly, it's going to be test scores, so either the SAT or ACT or subject exams. Now, if you are a rising senior, because of the pandemic that we've been experiencing, test scores have become optional for those applying for fall of 2021. So it's no longer required. However, I'm sure many of you guys have a lot of questions about testing right now. So I will be going over in more detail about testing requirements, even if they're optional, when we get there. So brace yourselves. I will get there. But the third thing that they'll look for are extracurricular activities, letters of recommendations, as well as those college essays. So I'll be going over in more detail about each of these 3 areas. So GPA, or grade point average, is calculated based on the grades you receive in 9th, 10th, and 11th grade. So what that means is that you want to do as well as you can in those grade levels. However, what if you're a rising senior? Do senior year grades count? Can they help boost your GPA when you apply if your grades were not as strong as you would have liked in the years before? Well, the simple answer is unfortunately no. 12th grade grades do not get factored into your overall grade point average calculation. However, it doesn't mean that you can get senioritis and drop the ball when you enter 12th grade, because what colleges will often do, they will ask for a transcript once the first quarter of your 12th grade year is done. So, what could happen is they can accept you, and then once they receive your senior year transcript, if your grades fell really low compared to your previous years in high school, they could just as easily rescind their offer. You don't want that happening. So make sure that you keep up and maintain the same level of grades that you've had throughout the years during your senior year as well. Okay. If you're younger, then if you're not quite a junior or a senior yet, just bear in mind, knowing that grades are important and knowing the kinds of classes you take are important. Just make sure you're taking and maximizing your potential in each of the classes in anticipation of some colleges you may be considering. So challenge yourself. That's always going to be really great. Now, second thing are going to be test scores. Now, again, I know there's a lot of questions around test scores right now. So if you are a rising senior, as I've mentioned before, test scores are now optional for a lot of schools that used to require them. Now, this only applies for rising seniors who are applying for the fall 2021 school year in college. The one exception right now are UC schools. So UC's officially stated that they will not be requiring the test scores for not just fall of 2021, but indefinitely. So they're permanently getting rid of test score requirements for all students. So this is a big, big change. Having said that, UCs as well as other schools who made testing optional for this year have said that if you do have a test score, that they will still accept it. So what does that mean? Should you take it? Should you not take it? Simple answer is yes, still take it. If you've been preparing for these exams, or if you've taken practice exams and you've been doing pretty decently on them, I say take it, because if you take it and you are happy with your score and you submit it, it can only help you. So if you are interested, I suggest take a practice test and register for a test coming up. For SAT, the next one is coming up in August. I believe it's August 29th. For ACT, the next test date coming up is September. So September, I believe the 13th is when it's going to happen, hopefully. So even though it is an uncertain time, I say if there's opportunity to take it, take it. It cannot hurt you. Now, if you are a rising senior, just bear in mind, you can take any of these tests up until November or even December of your senior year for applications. So you have a lot of time ahead of you to take it. Another, I would say now we're in July, another good 5-6 months until you take the official exam, should you decide to take one. This same thing applies for SAT subject exams. Now, although many have made it optional, there are still some programs that are going to want to see subject exams, especially for those engineering majors. So if you do have specific questions about subject exams, I'm happy to answer them at the end of this workshop, or you can always contact me and I'm happy to answer them as well. So with test scores, to simplify it, it's not required for a lot of schools. It's now optional, but even if it is optional, it can only help if you take it, are happy with your score, to submit it. Okay, now if you are in a situation where taking the test is near impossible and you don't have the means to prepare or the time to take it, or you have other maybe even health issues that are preventing you, of course, it's not required anymore, so you don't have to worry. Do not worry about taking it. Okay. On the topic of subject exams, I'm not going to go into too much detail once again, but just to give you an idea of some subject exams you can take and consider is math. There's 2 different math subjects you can take, Math 1 or Math 2. There's also subjects in the sciences, including biology, chemistry, and physics, or literature, or US/world history, or any one of the foreign languages that you may be pretty fluent in, such as Spanish, French, Chinese, Italian, German, modern Hebrew, Latin, Japanese, and Korean. So again, If you want more details and more information, I'll make time at the end of this workshop, or you can always email me any questions you have. Now, the third area that the colleges are going to look at is your extracurricular activities, which includes letters of recommendations as well as essays. But right now, I wanted to focus on extracurricular activities. What do you do when you're in lockdown and you're in quarantine and you can't go outside? Well, colleges know that, so they're not going to be stressing the volunteer work so much. That being said, if you have a passion or you're dedicated to a certain cause or organization, and there's opportunity for you to still be involved in it, whether it's remotely online or through other social distancing methods that allow you to still pursue these volunteer work, by all means, please continue them. However, if you do not have a way of getting into volunteer work at this time, then don't worry. Colleges more than understand the situation for a lot of people out there. Having said all of that, though, what you need to bear in mind is that you're going to want to explain your situation in the right context when it comes to those essays. So that is something I'm going to be going over in a little bit more detail coming up shortly. Okay, so now that we know what the top 3 things colleges are going to look for, I'm going to go into more detail about what to expect and keep in mind if you are a rising senior. So I'm going to be going over things that you'll want to keep track of and keep in mind for 12th grade. So in 12th grade, as I mentioned, do not get senioritis too soon, because your grades, even if they're not considered during the application process, are still going to matter once you get accepted. So just make sure you maintain the rigor of coursework as well as those grades. And secondly, there's going to be a lot of important dates during senior year, so keep these dates in mind. First thing I wanted to go over is testing. Now, again, it's optional, and I'm happy to answer questions about them. However, if you are thinking of taking it, regardless of whether or not they're, optional, is that you have until, again, October, November, December, even up until January for some schools of your senior year to take any sort of official standardized tests, such as the SAT or ACT or those SAT subject exams. So you have some time to decide. Second date to be mindful of is the November 1st deadline. Now, if there is a school that you really, really, really like and you want to apply early, a lot of schools offer an early application deadline, except UCs. UCs do not offer any early action application deadlines. They only offer regular application. So for all others, if you do have a school you really want to target and apply early to, November 1st is the deadline for majority of early action colleges. Second to that, if you're not doing early action, or even if you are going to do early action, but still want to apply to, let's say, UCs or Cal States, those deadlines are November 30th. So November 30th is the absolute deadline for UC schools as well as any Cal State schools if you're applying within California. And then after that, other regular decision deadlines for other private schools as well as many Ivy Leagues, those deadlines happen in the months of January to February, sometimes even up to March, but generally they're in January or February. So keep these dates in mind, because if you decide to do early action, November 1st is coming up in just under 5 months. In fact, 4 months away to be exact. So just keep these dates in mind. I know it's summer and I know you want to enjoy it, but you also have to be mindful of the fact that there's only so much time until you have to get all of this together and submitted. So just keep these dates in mind, but of course, still enjoy your summer. The next thing I wanted to go over is the college application process. So what are some things that you should start working on now? How soon should you have some of these required materials completed by? So to give you a general timeline, I'm going to go over 4 main areas to start working on. And that first thing you want to start working on is the college list. So if you are a rising senior, You want to take this downtime you have during summer to really start thinking about where you want to apply. There's three main tiers of schools um, you want to organize your colleges around. So number one is going to be reach schools. So for everyone, there's going to be reach schools based on your maybe grades and what you want to study, etc. So reach schools could include Ivy Leagues like Harvard or Yale, and other pretty competitive schools. After reach schools, the majority of the college list should fall under the target school. Target schools are schools that match your academic performance as well as your interests, etc. So have a reach, target, as well as safety schools. Safety schools are schools that you know you have a very high chance of getting accepted into, and they're somewhat of a backup school, if you will, in case the other schools don't work out. So have those three ways of organizing your list: by reach, target, and safety. Second thing after that is to start organizing by deadlines and required material. What that means is once you have a college list, start organizing and think about which schools you want to do early application to. If you have an early application school, remember they're due November 1st. UC's and Cal State's, their deadlines are November 30th. Other private schools have deadlines in January up until February and even March. So it's really good to have a list and to organize them by deadline dates so you don't miss a deadline for your school. You also want to start organizing letters of recommendations. So if you're applying or planning to apply to a private school, a lot of them often require recommendation letters. Sometimes they require two. Other schools require up to three. So you have to make sure you know where you want to apply and look into these details for that particular school early on. The third thing you want to start doing is when August comes, a lot of the college applications start opening up. So in August, the Common App will become open, as well as a UC application, as well as the Cal State applications, plus any other individual college applications that may not use the Common App or the UC app. So in August, start creating those accounts so you can start navigating around the account applications, and so you have a better idea as to how those applications kind of work. So keep that in mind. And then last but not least, you want to start writing those essays as early as possible. A good rule of thumb is if you haven't already started thinking about them, start thinking about them now so that you can start writing them by no later than August. The more time you have to write and edit, the higher chance your writing is going to be that much more compelling and convincing and moving for the readers. Now more than ever, especially with testing requirements now being optional, those essays are going to factor in pretty heavily. Not that they're going to be looking at only that, of course, because always grades are most important. But because testing is no longer required, they're going to want to really get a better idea as to who you are as a person beyond grades, and to see that you have the traits that it takes to be a successful student and a successful person overall. So start brainstorming, start thinking. Top three things all colleges will ask you is what you want to study, why you want to study, and why you want to apply to that particular college. So really start thinking about that and really dig deep to kind of answer these questions, because college admissions officers are smart people. They know when they read an essay whether it was done last minute or whether there was a lot of thought and time put into them. So they can spot out the genuine ones from the ones that were rushed and not so genuine. So start thinking about it, start writing it, and have fun with them. The last slide I wanted to kind of go over or share with you is this great quote or a Chinese proverb that says, "The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now." And what I mean by that is if you're a rising senior and you feel you didn't do as well as you could have in your previous years of high school, do not worry, because the personal statement essays is the opportunity for you to repaint who you are beyond these grades, beyond these scores. It's an opportunity for them to really understand your uniqueness, your strengths, and the potential that you have in you. So, really take this time to think through what you want to share, regardless of what your grades might show or possible test scores might show. So, those of you who are feeling a little bit anxious or not so confident about your academic performance, don't worry. There's always going to be a school out there for you. And the application essays, again, is another chance and opportunity for you to highlight your best traits that your grades may not have shown. I hope you found that workshop helpful, and I hope it hopefully eased some of your concerns and answered some questions you had. However, if you still have questions, which I'm sure many of you may still have, feel free to reach out to me. I'm available through the email and contact number that I provided before, but you can also find me on magentaed.com. I have been doing this for quite a while, so I would be happy and I would absolutely love to help answer any questions, but also to help alleviate any stress or concerns and anxiety that you may be feeling, because again, that's completely normal. But right now is the best time to start thinking about all of this. So please feel free to give me a call or email me, and we can see what we can do together. In the meantime, I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your summer and enjoy the rest of your LEAP experience. Thanks. Bye.